Headed to the beach, a pool party, or just walking your dog? Well, you definitely need this one product. Hi, I'm Dr. Weinstein. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, and today we're diving into why sunscreen is your BFF, especially during the summer months. Now, before we talk about summer months specifically, it's important to remember that sunscreen should be worn year-round, 365 days a year. That's because UV is emitted through cloud cover or even through cold climates every day. A really easy way to check how much UV is being emitted is by checking what we call the UV index. If that UV index is 3+ or higher, you should definitely wear SPF. Now, if it's 8 or above, you should be reapplying SPF every 2 hours. And if you're outside, regardless of the UV index, if you're outside at the pool, at the beach during the summer, you should be reapplying every 2 hours. And we'll get more into that later in this video. An easy way to check what the UV index is just going to the weather app on your phone. So here I'm checking the weather app in Rochester. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, unfortunately, where I live, it is very cloudy and today it was raining, but the UV index today you can see is 1. Do I have my sunscreen on? Better believe it. Sunscreen is part of my daily routine, but I also use it as my moisturizer and a little bit of coverage. I don't use foundation when I use my favorite sunscreen. So it's really a 3-in-1 for me, which is why I can use it every day. Now back to why we need to block UV rays 365 days of the year. What do they do? So UVB rays contribute to sunburn. That's easier to remember because B equals burn. So when unprotected skin gets a little bit of sun, that is causing immediate DNA damage to the skin cells and can later turn into a sunburn, which is why it's of utmost importance to use a sunscreen with SPF 30 or higher, which will block 97% of UVB rays. UVA rays contribute to all of the signs of aging. So A for aging, or accelerated aging is how I like to remember it. UVA rays contribute to accelerated aging because they degrade collagen and elastic tissue in the skin, leading to premature aging in the form of brown spots, wrinkling, and loss of elasticity or saggy skin. But nobody wants to hear that, and nobody wants to look like that. So it's really easy. Protect your skin 365 days a year. And by far, the most important reason for wearing sunscreen 365 days a year is to prevent skin cancer. That's right, 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer in their lifetime. And so wearing daily SPF will help prevent the occurrence of skin cancer, especially on the face and in sun-exposed areas. Sunscreen is essential for all skin types. No one is exempt. It doesn't matter your skin tone or your origin or your family history, quite frankly, when it comes to the fact that anyone can develop skin cancer. Now, genetic factors definitely play a role when it comes to skin cancers like melanoma, but with non-melanoma skin cancers, it's really free range for all skin tones. Now, why should we use sunscreen specifically in the summer? If you are a never sunscreen wearer, then this is the time to start, and I'll tell you why. In the summer, the UV rays are stronger, so that UV index is going to be higher, which means the risk of burn is that much higher as well. In the summer, there's also factors like water and sweat coming into play. So if you're at the beach or the pool and you're consistently getting wet and then dry and then wet and dry, no matter how water resistant sunscreen says it is, it still needs to be reapplied every 2 hours. So when you come out of the pool and take a break, it's time to pat your body down dry and reapply your sunscreen. Some common mistakes people make is that they apply full body sunscreen in the morning. That's great before going out to the beach or the pool. And then they're having so much fun, I don't blame you, but they don't reapply sunscreen and then wonder why they got burned at the end of the day. As I mentioned, water and sweat can contribute to the breakdown and effectiveness of sunscreen overall. And so one of my pro tips is when you get out of the beach or the pool, or if you're a busy mom and you have kids, set a timer so that every 2 hours your watch or your phone will ring and you'll bring the kids out of the pool, and at that time you'll also remind yourself to reapply sunscreen. I love using sunscreen sprays to reapply, but it has to be done correctly in order to be effective. The correct way to spray a sunscreen spray is to stand a few feet away from the body and give a nice coverage of spray. But that's not the end of it. You then need to take your hand and rub it in. So the spray ensures that that the area being protected has full coverage of sunscreen, and then it needs to be rubbed in. So whether it's a mineral or a chemical-based sunscreen, it doesn't matter. Make sure you rub in the spray. The spray also helps apply sunscreen to those hard-to-reach areas or often forgotten areas like your center part or above the ears or the backs of your hands or the tops of your feet. So those are all areas that definitely need to be protected, and using a spray will help you remember to apply to those areas as well. Another great technique for reapplying sunscreen specifically on the face is with a sunscreen compact. Skin Better Science makes a really nice one, as well as Aven, or a sunscreen stick. You can find sunscreen sticks from Aven, Blue Lizard, Aveeno, MD Solar Sciences, L2MD. That's just to name a few. And then my friends over at Color Science make a really nice sunscreen brush, and it's almost like putting on a little bit of powder that doubles as a bronzer, a little bit of coverage if you like to reapply your sunscreen but you don't want to mess up your makeup. Another common mistake people make when they're applying sunscreen is they don't apply it to their eyelids. One of my very best friends is an oculoplastic surgeon, and that means she does a lot of very specific surgery around the eyes, and I can't tell you how many times she's told me that she's found skin cancers on the eyelid. Now, if you just put your sunscreen on your eyelid, you could protect yourself and prevent the development of skin cancer on the eyelid. Sunglasses alone are not enough because the UV will still penetrate under the sunglass, especially if the sun is angled in various ways and you're lying on a beach chair, you'll still get UV to the eyelids. So make sure that you protect your eyelid skin and use sunscreen there. Now, the type of sunscreen you put on your eyelid should be, in my opinion, a mineral-based sunscreen because they tend to be less irritating, especially for sensitive skin and sensitive skin areas like the eyelid. Now, I've also seen sunscreen specifically formulated for the eyelid. The last really nice formulation I saw was from L2MD, but there's also one by Supergoop that makes a really nice sunscreen for the eyelid itself. Another mistake I see people make all the time with sunscreen is they don't protect their lips. So now there are so many elegant formulations of lip moisturizers, lip oils, you name it. There are lip products with SPF in them. I just came across a really nice one by a brand called Vacation, but there's also ones from MD Solar Sciences, L2MD, Aquaphor, Drunk Elephant. All of these brands make lip moisturizers, lip oils, chapsticks with SPF in them. Again, the downside of not protecting your lips with SPF is that you can develop skin cancers or pre-cancers on your lip. And let me tell you, this is some of the hardest territory on your body to treat because it's the center of your face, it's your lip. And so if you want to prevent having surgery or having some laser resurfacing or intervention on the lip itself, then I would recommend finding a lip moisturizer with SPF in it that you love and wear it every day. The last common mistake that people make with not protecting their skin is not applying sunscreen to the backs of their hands. So what is exposed when you're driving? Most often, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, but your hands are on that steering wheel and they are definitely exposed to UV. Your hands, and especially the left side of your face. But if all else fails and you forget your lips, your eyelids, your ears, your scalp, definitely apply sunscreen to the back of your hands and your forearms, especially if you're somebody who drives a lot. You can also buy some really elegant and fashionable gloves if you prefer to go that route for your hands. There's a company called Solbari that develops products based out of Australia, and you know they know what they're doing in Australia because they have the most sunny days of the year and they're the closest continent to the equator, and also unfortunately they have the highest rate of skin cancers in Australia as well. And so wearing sun protective gloves in addition to sun protective clothing overall and a hat would give you 5 stars on your sun protective routine, especially for the summer. Now let's get into how exactly to apply sunscreen. The most common problem people are making when applying sunscreen is you're just not applying enough. So the proper way to apply sunscreen, if we're talking about just your face, is to apply 2 finger lengths of sunscreen. So cover your 2 fingers with sunscreen, and that's enough to cover your entire face. Now, if you're reapplying sunscreen, you also need to use that amount to effectively protect your face. If you want to add your neck into that equation, then you need 3 finger lengths of sunscreen to also protect your neck. Now, for sunscreen coverage for the whole body, the recommended amount by the American Academy anatomy of dermatology is 1 shot glass full, or about 1.5 ounces of sunscreen. That is how much sunscreen is needed to protect your whole body, which is why I like the spray technique, because you can visually see where the sunscreen is going and how much real estate you've covered with the spray. But if all else fails and you have a cream-based sunscreen for your body, then think about a shot glass full, and that's as much as you need to cover your body. We talked about the other methods of sunscreen, so a stick, a spray, a compact, a powder brush. These are all great methods to apply sunscreen, but when it comes to that first application and ensuring that you have enough coverage, I recommend using a cream. The other thing to remember is to apply your sunscreen at least 15 minutes before going outside. This just assures that you take your time when you apply it, and you're not right by the pool, so you're not rushing to get in, you're not right by the beach, so you're not distracted by all the commotion, but really take your time. 15 minutes before you go outside, apply the sunscreen to yourself, apply it to your spouse, apply it to your children, and make sure that you apply enough that allows it time to soak in, get settled. You can put your cover up on and then go out, and you know you'll be protected for the next 2 hours. Now, here are some fun facts about sunscreen, things that people commonly misunderstand, and so I'm about to debunk those facts right about now. So there's 2 types of sunscreens, 2 broad categories. There's chemical and there's mineral. Mineral-based sunscreens typically contain zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. They are wonderful for people with sensitive skin. The downsides of them is that they tend to leave a white cast. Now, right now, there are some very elegant formulations of mineral-based sunscreens, and the tinted ones especially tend to blend in really nicely, and they don't leave a white cast. So those are great if you have sensitive skin, and again, applying mineral-based to the eyelid is always a great idea. And they're also great if you're gonna be at the beach in an area with a really high UV index and you wanna make sure that your face is protected and the rest of your body. I would offer a mineral-based sunscreen in addition to a hat and sunglasses and UPF clothing. Now, chemical-based sunscreens, most people think that because they're chemical, they are toxic or harmful to the skin, and this is just not true. Now, there have been a number of studies showing that chemical-based sunscreens are safe. They're actually created with organic ingredients, but they received a bad rep because one of the chemicals, oxybenzone, was found to be harmful for the reef. Now, that study was published a few years ago, and since then, more companies have cut along and developed sunscreens that are reef safe, which means they do not have that ingredient of oxybenzone in them. The other piece of bad news was that there was a media article that came out saying that sunscreens caused cancer, not skin cancer, but just cancer. And the amount of sunscreen that was applied in that study to a certain area of skin was way more than people normally apply. And so loads and loads of sunscreen in one place repeatedly supposedly led to the development of cancer. If you learn one thing from this video, it's that sunscreen does not cause cancer. Everything else around us could also cause cancer. The things we eat, the pollution, the smoke we inhale, the x-rays we're around, the environment, anything can cause cancer. So thinking that copious amounts of sunscreen in one area can cause cancer is just ridiculous. So definitely myth debunked right there. Sunscreen does not cause cancer. Another question I commonly get is, what do the different SPFs mean? So SPF 30, SPF 50, SPF 100. So SPF 30 protects you from about 97% of UV rays, whereas SPF 50 protects you from about 98% of UV rays. Now you might think, well, that's crazy. There's only a 1% difference in UVB protection. But that 1% means that 33% less UVB hits your skin, which is huge. It's not just that SPF 50 is 1% stronger. Now you can imagine SPF 100 covers about 99% of UVB rays. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to reapply SPF 100 just because you have 99% protection from UVB rays. It'll still wear off and be subject to all the things, sweat, water, over the course of 2 hours. It still needs to be reapplied every 2 hours, no matter what strength. Lastly, if you're somebody who has acne-prone skin or sensitive skin, again, I recommend looking for a sunscreen that's non-comedogenic, doesn't clog your pores, and formulated for acne-prone skin. Elta makes a really nice product called UV Clear, which I mentioned earlier, as well as Neutrogena makes a really nice sunscreen called Neutrogena Clear Face. That's one that I recommend if you have acne-prone skin. I'll put some other recs for sunscreens, mineral and chemical, in the comments below. And remember, sunscreens are safe for tweens and kids too. The American Academy of Dermatology recommends that you start putting sunscreen on your baby as early as 6 months. And they do specifically say that babies should be using mineral sunscreens only, so those with zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Typically, they will say, Aveeno Baby or Neutrogena formulated for babies, and so you'll be directed to the right type for your infant. And then in terms of tweens and beyond, really any sunscreen, a sunscreen that they will use daily and regularly will be best for them. Protecting your skin today means fewer regrets for tomorrow. As a board-certified dermatologist, I hear patients say all the time that they wished they had worn sunscreen when they were kids and teenagers. They wished their parents would have known about the harmful effects of UV rays and the potential for developing skin cancer, and that they counsel their kids all the time now to wear sunscreen. Do you have a favorite sunscreen, or are you still on the fence? Let me know why. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more sunny skin tips this summer.